3 people were killed and several injured near a church in the Notre Dame area of Nice this morning, including one 70-year-old woman who was decapitated. The culprit was a jihadist who yelled Allah Akbar throughout the attack. Meanwhile, in Avignon, a man wielding a knife while also shouting Allah Akbar was shot dead after trying to attack police officers who were patrolling the street. In Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, a French guard at the French consulate was also wounded by an attacker. The attacks followed the beheading of school teacher Samuel Paty in Paris earlier this month by a Chechen jihadist who sought revenge for Paty showing cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad to pupils in his class. I guess we just didn't draw enough cartoons after Charlie Hebdo. I guess we just didn't project enough French flags onto buildings after the Paris massacre. I guess we just didn't virtue signal hard enough by going on more pointless marches after Paty was killed. I guess Emmanuel Macron just didn't give enough speeches spewing anemic platitudes about secular liberalism. So a school teacher shows some cartoons of Muhammad to his class. Islamists react by beheading people and instigating a worldwide revolt against and boycott of France. Meanwhile, an Islamist in the UK literally tries to tear down a Christian cross from the top of a church. And how do Christians react? The Reverend of the church expressed sympathy with the culprit, said he was glad he didn't hurt himself and said he hoped he would get the help he needed. So let me get this straight. Teacher shows his class some cartoons. Islamists react by beheading people and initiating a global boycott. Islamist tears down a Christian cross. Christians react by checking if the poor baby grazed his knee. Now obviously I'm not saying that anyone should lash out violently. But when Christian faith leaders refuse to defend the faith, even when it's directly attacked, what do you think's going to happen? Attacks against Jews and Christians in France are soaring. Attacks on churches have become commonplace. Where are the defenders of the faith? AWOL. After the Charlie Hebdo massacre, the Pope justified the attack. He said, quote, "You cannot provoke, you cannot insult the faith of others, you cannot make fun of the faith of others." How will Pope Francis react to today's attack, which clearly targeted Catholics? Will he say anything, or is he too busy virtue signalling about gay marriage? Islamism isn't just a religion, it's an expansionist political doctrine. And it won't be stopped by empty rhetoric, forgiveness and candles. Drawing more cartoons won't stop Islamic terrorism. Organising futile je suis this and je suis that protest marches won't stop Islamic terrorism. Pedantically proclaiming the sanctity of Enlightenment values and secular liberalism won't stop Islamic terrorism. The Catholic woman beheaded while she attended Mass this morning in Nice, France was in her 70s. The terrorist shouted Allah Akbar before beheading her and another Catholic, before then stabbing another Catholic to death. Wow, another attack on secular liberalism. You know what just might help stop Islamic terrorism? And bear with me here, because I know this sounds a bit radical, but fuck it, I'm just gonna say it anyway. How about not importing Islamic terrorists? Just saying. The Chechen teen who beheaded Samuel Paty had been granted a 10-year residency in France as a refugee in March. The majority of the Paris massacre terrorists exploited the refugee wave to enter Europe. The 3 terrorists who went on a knife rampage in Lyon back in April were Sudanese refugees. Now reports are emerging that the terrorist in Nice was a Tunisian migrant reportedly picked up by an Italian rescue boat after being the subject of an expulsion order in Italy. Starting to notice a pattern to the problem here, one that can't be solved by drawing more frigging cartoons. Western societies are now paying the price of decades of multiculturalism. Assimilation is now urgent. There are 400,000 illegal immigrants in one area of Paris alone. Dude, how on earth are you going to assimilate 400,000 people? Assimilation has quite clearly failed. The mosque that was shut down after Paty's murder had posted a video railing against the victim days before he was beheaded. The father of the pupil who launched the campaign against Paty sent text messages to the killer before the attack. The same community that, if it was assimilated, would have cautioned against targeting Paty was itself responsible for inciting the attack against him. Maybe it's time to dispense with the idea that assimilation is possible. Don't forget the Paris massacre terrorist Salah Abdeslam escaped to Molenbeek and was able to evade capture for 4 months. Why? Because the community helped him hide out. They even tried to smuggle him out in a wardrobe. Do you think it's possible to assimilate them? Our Enlightenment values are non-negotiable. If only the ISIS terrorists that France itself imported before the Bataclan massacre would have agreed to sign a declaration to abide by Enlightenment values, maybe it would have never happened. Yeah, big doubt. The media is also complicit with the political class in hiding reality. Nice, France, 3 dead, woman decapitated by man yelling Allah Akbar. Sky News. It was not immediately clear what the motive was for the attack. Gee, I guess we'll never know. Meanwhile, over on MSNBC.
This is a country that is terrorized by these Islamic radicals.
It is, and we don't know the motive in this case.
Islamophobia immediately began trending on Twitter. I mean, 3 people have just been slaughtered, a woman's been beheaded, but spare a thought for those hurt feelings. Jihadists could hijack an asteroid and have it decimate most of planet Earth. Twitter's secret underground server bunker could still keep the website running, and what would be the #1 trend? Islamophobia. This warped metastasization of political correctness has also infected the police and security services. Numerous eyewitnesses reported the suspicious behavior of the Manchester Arena jihadist Salman Abedi minutes before he blew himself up. They were all ignored. In one case, because the security guard thought that if he reported it, he might be called racist. There can be no legitimate discussion about preventing Islamic terrorism without that discussion being almost exclusively predicated on demographics and immigration. France's official Muslim population is 8.8%. In reality, it's probably significantly higher. Compare that to countries like Poland and Hungary, where the Muslim population is so minimal, it's barely even measurable. Don't seem to recall there being many terror attacks in Poland or Hungary. Some kind of connection here. The French ambassador to Sweden reacted to the Islamist beheading of the school teacher by telling Sweden's national broadcaster, quote, "France is a Muslim country." What does that sound like to you? A commitment to fight back? Or a craven act of capitulation? In his 2015 book, which was published on the day of the Charlie Hebdo massacre, writer Michel Houellebecq foresaw a wave of terror attacks, eventually leading to an Islamist political party seizing power in France. The book was called Submission. What better word to describe the utter state that France now finds itself in, thanks to its secular, liberal, cowardly, pitiful political class.